Today I want to introduce Kim Kiyosaki. Hi, Kim.
I'm so glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We've been on stage so much together. We've traveled the world.
Talked a lot of real estate
with Robert.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, we've had a lot of fun.
Yes, we have.
So as you know, this podcast is to educate people about real estate and financial literacy and everything, which is perfect for the Rich Dad message.
Yes, it is.
And by the way, congratulations for running Rich Dad and it's just been an incredible brand.
It's we've been so fortunate, and one thing I've learned is as long as you stick to the mission, when we stick to the mission and just play to that role, then that's when we do well. So that's what we do.
What's interesting is when I first became a Rich Dad advisor, you didn't really have a speaking platform.
No, I did not.
You remember that?
I do. Oh, I remember very well. Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, you were there all the time. You were traveling around, and all of a sudden, I remember when Robert's like kind of pushing you out and saying,
"Yeah." I was there too. I was there for the business part of it, and I had no desire to go on stage. Had no desire, zero. I did not want to be the front person. I didn't want to be the spokesperson, and he nudged me, and so I would every once in a while get up and speak to the women for like 5-10 minutes. And then I'd get off stage, and actually that's where the Rich Woman brand came from, because no matter where I spoke, whatever city it was, it could be Jakarta, Singapore, London, I was always inundated with women.
I was there with you. I was at all those places. And I remember you getting up, and every time you got up, I remember, because I was backstage watching out, you had everyone's ear because, Robert's talking about the book and, going over his stuff that he always goes over. But you were, and still are, super authentic.
Oh, thanks.
You know what I mean? Like you're saying, hey, this is how I started. Yeah. This is how,
Started small, just like you, little 2-bedroom, 1-bath.
Yeah, in Portland, Oregon.
In Portland, Oregon, yeah.
People can resonate with that, I think.
Yeah. Well, when we, if you get people up there and they're talking about these big deals that they do and people haven't even started, they need to know how to start. And we always say, just start small. Just start small. Little money, little education, get your toe in the water, and then start. Put a little money down.
So now you're all grown up.
Well, I'm never going to be grown up. We're never going to be grown up, Kenny. Neither of us.
Well, let's talk about the Rich Woman book, right? Okay. Because I love that. It was interesting because it was right in front of me. I never saw the need for women to become financially educated, and you kind of brought that to me, at least, and to a lot of people, that issue. Can we talk just a little bit about that? Because it's a big one.
It's a big issue. It is a big issue. And as I said, when I would travel around and these women would come to me after my talk, and they all had similar questions, similar concerns, and very similar issues. And I think the number one issue is that not only are we not, as women, taught about money, but we're actually taught, since we're young, this thought of being taken care of financially. So we've actually been taught to depend upon a husband or a family member, the government, for our financial well-being. And we know the statistics. The husband usually passes away before the wife. She has no idea. I know I can speak to a woman right now. Her husband passed away suddenly. She has no idea what she has, where it is, and all these people want to come help her.
Yeah.
Help themselves.
The sharks.
The sharks. Yeah, and so because of death of a spouse or divorce or bad money management, so many women, as we get older, we find ourselves in a financial crisis. And it doesn't have to be that way. And it's just that the women have not taken the initiative or don't know where to go to learn about money.
Yeah, and it's a constant issue. As you know, we have lots of mutual friends, and some of them are athletes or NFL athletes. I just had a friend retire from the NFL, made a lot of money, and same thing, younger though. Exact same issue.
Yeah.
Lots of money.
Yep.
But has no clue what to do with it.
I think the statistic is it's like 78% of professional football players are broke or bankrupt within like 2 or 3 years of leaving the league.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, to me, it's all the same issue. It's financial literacy, because whether you're a woman that loses her husband somehow, or an athlete that gets a bunch of money and is no longer working,
right.
But at the end of the day, they're stuck, and they have this cash, or hopefully they have cash. They don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and the the NBA, the NBA brought us in,
yes.
right? Our friend brought us in to educate the rookie players.
Yes.
And the agents and managers wanted nothing to do with it because they didn't want these players educated.
But what's cool, I think Danny Shaves was kind of pioneering that at the time, and he still is. He's trying to help a lot of his fellow players, retire.
It's the same with lottery winners. The lottery winners, they're all broke or bankrupt within 3 to 5 years after winning, and a lot of it comes down to because they have who they are before they have their money, like an NBA player, right? They are maybe come from a poor mindset, poor background, and that doesn't. If they don't change that, if they don't change their mindset and start getting educated about what to do with their money, they still operate from the same mindset where they were before they had their money. I think that's a big problem.
It is a big problem, and that's why I loved your book, Rich Woman. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a phenomenal book, and I think it's a must-read for everyone.
Oh, thanks. The reason I wrote it was, just as you said, it was a wake-up call for women to highlight what happens, the statistics due to divorce. And there's one statistic that talks about of the elderly living in poverty, 3 out of 4 are women, yet 80% of those women living in poverty were not poor when their husband was alive.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so they were okay. Husband passes away. They have no idea. And the next thing you know, they're in poverty. So those kind of statistics was to wake women up to say, hey, you've got to now take charge of your financial life. I'm not talking about being separate from your spouse. I'm just saying you need to understand what you've got, where it is, and ideally then learn how to grow it.
That's the thing.
And women make great investors. Women do make great. I know you have a lot of investors who are women in your community. So women do make very good investors. I think one of the reasons is not to pick on men, but I think we have a little less ego and we're a little more.
That's not true.
We like to make money, and we want to just see the bottom line.
Like, as you know, for my company here, we got 250 employees. I'll bet you we have 20 guys.
You're smart. See, you are so smart.
Entire leadership team.
You are so smart.
We had a leadership meeting here in our office yesterday. I'm looking around the table. I'm the only man. Like, you know what I mean?
Yay.
It's like
good for you.
President,
good
CFO,
for you. Yeah.
COO, women, CFO, women, CEO, women.
So we'll see, that's why you guys are successful, because they actually are studies that show that when you put women in top positions, but this was like Fortune 500, the companies that have the women in management and on the board, things like that, they do better. They outperform the other companies.
I will tell you, there's a bunch of, not only do men have egos, that's for sure.
We all have egos, but some are stronger than others.
Some are stronger. Yeah, we know some of those people.
We do. Yes, we do.
And,
they're our dear friends.
But also, they're more empathetic.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Well, we were talking before the show about relationships, and I do believe, and this is a general statement, it's not true for all women, but women do tend to be a little more relationship oriented, and I think that leads to success in everything, as we were talking about in business and investing. If you build those relationships and nurture those relationships, you're obviously going to do better than somebody that doesn't.
There's no question. I can't even tell you the hundreds of times where I come in like a bull in a china shop and the women are just sitting there nodding, taking notes, right, assessing the whole situation. I think I'm in control. I'm not at all in control.
And then they say, "Oh, now let us tell you how we're going to do this."
Yeah, okay.
What
Thank
we're going to do.
Talking. Yeah, I know you own the company, but this is what we're going to do now.
Yeah, and I think for women, I just spoke at a large women's conference, and one of the key issues was confidence. Because they haven't taken the action. That's why we say start small. Take baby steps. Because they haven't done anything in the world of money and investing, their confidence is very low. So the more that we can encourage women to get started, today, one thing you could just go learn, if you learn the vocabulary of money or learn the vocabulary of real estate, or go out and buy a 1-ounce silver coin, and you'll be amazed by, spending that $20, all of a sudden you'll be very interested in what's happening with silver and is the price up and down and all of this. So I think the more you can take these small steps to get started and to understand whatever investment you're looking at, the better it's going to be.
Well, I'll give you a great example. Actually happened to me this week. I was at the gym, and one of those, oddly enough, one of those ads about gold and silver came up, and Robert was on it.
Yes.
As you know, right? And I'm like, oh, and then it's like, hey, you know that guy? I go, yeah, I kind of know him, and he's like, well, what do you think about all this gold and silver? And I was working out, and I said, well, let's just start, and I walked him through the whole thing. He's like, holy crap, like, how do you know all that stuff? And I said, I just studied it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I told him to go get a couple books. He's going to go do that. And, this guy's 50 years old, but he has no clue,
Yeah.
It's everywhere, right?
Oh, and to the point about, I'm sure he was probably a successful business guy, right? And I've seen so many people build a successful business. I have a friend who built a very successful business, sold it, was scared to death about losing his money, because he had no idea how to invest it. He had no idea how to grow it.
There's another big issue, actually. This is an interesting one. I have a friend who built a huge company, sold it, and now he's like this, he's holding.
Yeah, that was
it's like
friend.
They're holding all their chips, right? Because they don't know.
Yes.
Like, they don't understand money, how it works, and all that kind of stuff. They just made a bunch.
Yeah. Well, I was in Hawaii and was at a restaurant, and this gentleman just started talking to me. I didn't know him. And he and his wife had just retired. They were on their way to Maui. And out of the blue, he says to me, he goes, I just hope we have enough money to last us through retirement.
Wow.
They don't know. And they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to grow it. So they put it in savings, which earns you nothing, or they turn it over to a stockbroker who they have no idea what he or she's doing with their money. It's like to turn your money blindly over after you've spent your whole life working for it.
Well, not to mention, yes. And by the way, that's what this podcast is all about, because, you guys have always said, if you're saving, you're a loser, right?
Right. Savers are losers.
Right. And people don't understand that really. But, I try to say, well, you're getting less than 1%. Inflation's 2 to 3. So
there you go.
For sure you're losing, but when you start to put the numbers around it, it starts to make a lot of sense. But we have a big issue with people not having enough money right now. This whole baby boomer generation doesn't have a lot of savings.
No savings. They're counting on pensions, and pensions we've talked about before. Pensions are not going to be there for a lot of people who are expecting it. Social Security is bankrupt. And they're depending on all this money, and I don't think people are going to be able to retire. Period.
Well, there's going to be a lot of subsidizing by the local governments and federal governments, and it's going to be very, very eye opening for a lot of folks.
And I think too, I've heard this before. I've heard a lot of people say, "Well, I'm too old." Like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, so I'm too old. I know I've got stories of people that are in their, 65, 70s, early 70s, and they've gone out and they've done real estate investing, and, maybe they're making, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, but that's great. That's a great place to start.
Well, my sister is a great example of that. I just was in Seattle, and she is a bookkeeper her whole life, and she owns 5 houses. Has 25 tenants.
Wow.
So she's
fantastic.
Fantastic. She makes $8,000 a month.
There you go.
From those 25 tenants.
That's fantastic.
And she's like, I don't have the traditional 401ks. I don't have the traditional savings. And this was my retirement. And that's not including the equity in the home, because the tenants are paying that off. Right?
Yep.
So she's like, I got like $100,000 a year coming in.
Yeah.
Passive.
That's fantastic. It's Robert was telling me when he was in New York last trip that there was a doorman at his hotel. And the doorman came up and goes, I love your book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's changed my life. And Robert's like, what changed? Because he's a doorman. And he goes, well, I've been at this hotel for many, many years, and I realized that there's a lot of windows in this hotel, so I started a window washing business, and
wow.
the hotel is my client.
Oh, that's awesome.
The hotel, I do all their windows, and as a result, I take all the money from my my window washing, and I now have 8 properties.
Wow,
it's amazing, right?
That's the best.
That's the formula.
It's the formula, and I'll tell you what. I don't know about you. Well, I do actually. When we're together traveling, I know when you do. Isn't that the same story over and over and over?
Yeah.
Is I think people just want a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And that's what Rich Dad Poor Dad did for a lot of people.
Yeah, it showed them, I think, other options. People don't know there's other options other than go to school, get a job, work your whole life, and invest in a 401k,
right.
Save your money. I mean, today they're still saying, when you look at all the investment advice, I've just recently picked up a few money magazines and things like that, finance magazines. They're still saying the best thing you can do is save money.
I know.
So they don't know there's other options. They don't know they can invest in real estate or in options like Andy Tanner and how to cash flow from stocks and paper assets. And people don't know. So I think the more that we can showcase people who, like the window washer, doorman, who's out there doing it.
Has 8 properties.
8 properties, cash flowing.
In New York.
In New York, cash flowing. Maybe New Jersey, but.
Yeah. Close enough.
Yeah. So I think just people understanding that there are other options and they're not trapped into this. I can't get ahead. I can't do anything. I'm stuck with my 0.1% savings rate. They just have to know there's other ways they can go.
That's exactly right. So we have a pretty nice size Instagram and Facebook following like yourself, and there's a question that came off of there, which is, as a young woman. What should they start with? Let's say they're in college and they're trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
What any ideas?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Well, if it's about money, if they were looking to what to do with their money, I would say look at the 4 asset classes. First of all, you've got real estate, you got business, you got paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and you've got commodities, gold, silver, oil, gas, things like that, soybeans. And I know for the women that I talk to, when they start learning about the different asset classes, there's usually one that speaks to you, one that you're interested in. So for me, it was real estate. Yeah. I loved it. To this day, I'm working on a project right now I was just telling you about earlier. It's exciting. It's fun. It's creative. We're building something out of nothing, and it's gonna be so fun.
I remember.
Yeah. And then I have a girlfriend who she loves investing in stocks. She's good. She's an accountant. She does stocks, and she tracks it, and she's very detailed, and she watches it every day, and she's trading every single day. So it depends on you've got to find out what you're interested in, because if you're not interested, you're not going to want to learn about it. It's like school.
Right.
We all had to learn all this stuff we didn't want to learn. Why not have us learn something that we're interested in?
That's a good point. I started with real estate, as you know, but then I started to learn about the other things. Mm-hmm. I wasn't I'm not a gold bug like a lot of people, and I'm not into stocks like a lot of people, but I have them, and now I understand them.
Yeah. Well, you understand stocks. Well, good for you, because I still don't understand. Well,
I understand that I don't want to be in the stock market.
I was talking to Andy Tanner. I'm like, can you explain that one more time? Yeah, but real estate I love, business I love. Well, and those would be my 2. So I think for anybody that's starting out, what are you interested in, and start pursuing what you're interested in, but not do what you love and the money will follow. There's a step missing there, and do what you love, work your butt off,
right,
and then the money will follow.
Right. Good advice. Kim, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Oh, so love you. Thanks.
You too.
Thanks.